Welcome, everybody, again to one of our Pong Positive interview series. I'm Mark Thompson, joined now by the king and queen of table tennis, Dell and Connie Sweeris. I want to thank you both for taking the time today to speak with us. Dell and Connie, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
Well, it's our pleasure, obviously, when we talk about the great pairs of all time in table tennis. The names Dell and Connie Sweeris aren't too far from the conversation. I want to congratulate you all on really what have been tremendous careers in table tennis, both Hall of Famers, as well as what I see to be one of the great love stories associated with table tennis as well. How can you beat that? I mean, you're a Hall of Famer, and you've had this amazing relationship between the two of you.
Well, it's been great. I know that there's a saying, those that play together stay together. And Connie and I,
either that or they fight, one or the other.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we start there? I mean, obviously, you all have known each other for a very long time. It's my understanding that both of you were born and raised in the beautiful city of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and that's where you currently reside.
That's true. Both of us were, and Dell's dad and my brother started our local table tennis club. And I used to play in my basement, and Dell did too. And so then they brought us down there, and we met each other, met our families. And that's how we began our table tennis career and, so to speak, our love life.
Well, that's a great way to start it.
A lot of people don't realize that my dad and Connie's brother were both city champions of Grand Rapids. So we were the second in line, although it's Connie's brother who was 13 years older than her. So we've been fortunate to have that heritage.
Well, Connie, it's my understanding that your brother was an extremely influential person in your table tennis career, and I'm sure in your life as well. And it's kind of a theme that you do see in table tennis is it is a generational game. It's a game that is passed from father to son, from wife to mother to daughter to that's true in your life as well, is that your son Todd obviously is a USATT Hall of Famer as well. It's just one of those themes that seems universal in the sport of table tennis.
Yeah, that's how most players probably start, is through their families. And my brother was a good athlete in a lot of different sports, but he really enjoyed table tennis and got started in that, and so it passed down to me.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about other sports, and as good as you both were in table tennis, you're also very involved in other sports. I think actually we're doing this interview right now because you've got a tee time later today, Connie, and you were not canceling that tee time. You're playing golf today one way or another.
That's true. That's true. I love golf, and we live on a course, and so I can just go out in my backyard and be on the ninth tee. So that's a lot of fun too.
Well, it's one of the good things, I suppose, about golf, and even table tennis as well, is despite the fact that we're in the midst of this pandemic and social distancing is so critical at this particular moment, is that those are a couple sports you really can manage in a way that you can maintain social distance and still enjoy the sport. Golf, certainly outside, but even playing table tennis, you're automatically at least 9 feet away from each other. And if you are smart and approach it in the proper way, I believe that table tennis is a sport that you can play right now as well.
Yeah, I think so. There's question about doubles. I noticed in Arizona, where they just opened up the table tennis center there in Sun City, that they are saying you can't play doubles. But really, it doesn't hurt to be careful at this point in the game.
Well, obviously doubles is where both you and Connie kind of made your mark in many ways. Both of you were very successful singles players as well. But really, when you think Dell and Connie Sweeris, you do kind of think mixed doubles as being kind of a dominating pair. It had to be an interesting relationship, and on many different levels, a husband and wife playing together. You see it like your good friends Donna and David Sakai.
Right.
playing together. It's not unheard of, but I have a kind of a rule of my own that never try to teach someone you love the sport of golf, because it's for sure going to blow up the relationship, but it
But
doesn't seem like it's hurting yours at all.
Um, it was interesting. We're probably one of the few couples in the world, actually, that play mixed doubles together. When we went to the 1967 World Championships, we had just gotten married, and that was our honeymoon. And we played against a couple from Russia, the Amelins.
yeah.
And they were we were the only two couples in that tournament, probably, that were married and have survived it.
Well, maybe that's the greatest accomplishment of all.
I tell people that I've won the U.S. Open Mixed Doubles Championships 4 times, 3 times with my wife and once with my girlfriend.
And they say, wow, Dell, you're a player. That's what the kids would say nowadays. But I have a feeling it was the same person. It just was a transition in the relationship.
We had a unique thing, Mark, when we played too, that when the ball would come, Dell's left-handed and I'm right-handed, so it made it for a perfect doubles team. But if the ball would get smashed at me and I couldn't get out of the way, I would duck down and he hit over the top of me. And so many times we had people say to us later, when you guys played, if we never saw that move, we felt cheated. So,
Oh, well, I thought they were going to say they thought Dell was taking a swipe at you there,
yeah.
and you were ducking underneath it. But I wouldn't expect that. No, obviously, I would. Well, when you play together with somebody in a doubles format, there are going to be moments where I don't know. Generally, the personality of both of you, but you get upset. Were there moments when you all were playing together where you were kind of like, what? Come on, Dell, pick it up. I know you're better than this, and vice versa.
Actually, I don't think that happened too often. Once in a while, Connie would think that I was maybe trying to finish it off with a flash, and she would kind of keep me away from doing that. But really, when you're playing doubles, you can't get upset with your partner, and you can't, even when you're playing by yourself, as we heard the other day with Dr. Amen, you really have to control your emotions. But playing with a doubles partner, that's even you have to have a connection with them. And I know that when I play with Connie or when I play with Dave, there are times when things are not going very well, but you just can't get frustrated with your partner or even yourself. You have to just dig down and figure out a way to get out of it.
Usually we try to encourage one another.
Yeah.
Well, that's good team camaraderie. I mean,
Yeah.
people think of table tennis as kind of the pure, individual sport, but this is a good example of where it really does have a team element to it. And both of you have been involved in circumstances that had even greater team implications. Connie, as a member of the U.S. team that made the first kind of ping pong diplomacy, the first breakthrough with mainland China back in 1971. I know that we're approaching the 50th anniversary of that event, fast approaching it. And Connie, that must bring up a lot of really great memories for you. And I know that, unfortunately, Dell, you weren't able to actually go to mainland China on that event. But when the Chinese team came to the States, you were very much a part of the team that played them. And it must have been interesting for you, Dell, to see Connie go to China, and you're concerned about your wife going into what was very strongly held communist China at that particular moment. I'm just curious on both of your impressions of 50 years on here of the ping pong diplomacy. Connie, why don't we start with you? What was the experience like, and what do you think about it when you reflect back now?
Well, when I reflect back now, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And to be able to go into what we called communist China then was a little scary. We had to cross the border walking with armed guards with rifles. they took our passports once we got across the border. And so I kept thinking, this is a great opportunity to play the best players in the world, but at the same time, it was scary because of it being a communistic country. But I had a little bit of solace in the fact that I knew that they had invited us in to play with their players, and they would do everything in their power to keep us safe and to, get us back out of the country. So, but that was a wonderful trip to be able to experience playing and training with the Chinese.
What a great, for a young lady from Grand Rapids, Michigan, to get an opportunity, first of all, to be playing in the World Championships in Japan to begin with, and then all of a sudden be notified, hey, guess what? We're going to China. It had to be a bit of a shock. But, I would think, as you said, there's probably a little bit of fear involved there, but also a tremendous amount of excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
had to call Dell in middle of the night and tell him that we were going to go into China. And his reaction was, okay, but be safe.
yeah, the one thing about the trip to China, I wasn't really worried that anything bad would happen to her, but she was scheduled to have surgery when she got back home because she had some problems with her appendix. And so the worry was if something would go wrong while she was there. That was kind of a worrisome thing.
Well, that is a genuine concern.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about it is the reason I wasn't in Japan was because my employer wouldn't let me off work. Because I was actually entered in the men's singles and the men's doubles and the mixed doubles. But because I couldn't get off work, I had to stay home. But then I ended up going with a team that also it consisted with Danny Seemiller and Angelita Roselle, and that there was 8 juniors that I brought over to England, and I was reading about Connie's trip to China while I was in England.
It's fascinating that you were basically on opposite sides of the world at that particular moment.
What happened is the Great Britain's team was in China at the same time Connie, the U.S. team was there, but the news in the papers was more the U.S. team is in China rather than the British team is in China.
Well, it was such a big deal, I suppose, not just from the sporting standpoint, but, just the nature of the relationship between the two countries at that moment in history was so, I use the word tense, but I think a lot of it just was based on the lack of understanding between the two countries. And really, that's what the ping pong diplomacy was about, to develop understanding on some level so that it could blossom into understanding at a greater level.
Yeah, and
Yes.
when they came here and traveled, I think people, most of the places that we played were full. I mean, when we played at Cobo Hall, there were 10,000 people there. ABC Wide World of Sports, University of Michigan Band was right on the main floor. And the people, though, I think rather than coming to see table tennis, they really came to see the Chinese. And fortunately, we were a beneficiary of that interest in helping our sport, too, at the time.
Well, it certainly did. And it had to be an amazing feeling, Dell, to be there at Cobo Arena with, 10, 12,000 people around you and playing a sport you love and are used to be playing, between, in front of friends and family, basically. That's it. And all of a sudden, the energy of that event, you talk about the University of Michigan Band. I mean, just something simple like that changes the entire. I'm wondering about your mindset, because handling pressure in all sport is critical. Some people handle it better than others. But in table tennis, from what I've observed, the ability to handle the big moment is really a key to success in the sport.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that happened when the Chinese were here, they had already gone to Canada. And there had been people that had beaten Chinese players in Canada. Errol Catano and Derek Wall and some of these players had wins. So here we were playing the Chinese in Detroit, Michigan, And I knew that there could be a possibility that they would be a friend to me in the match, because it was friendship first, competition second. But even though we got out there and started playing with Liang Koliang and I wasn't really nervous. The fact of being on television, you don't see anything because the cameras are watching you, but you can't see yourself. And it was really interesting, the reaction for the people, because Liang Koliang started to smash some balls, and I used to be a good lobber. And I went back to the barriers, out of the camera of ABC Wide World of Sports, because they didn't realize we would go back that. And he smashed the ball, and I lobbed it, and you could hear 10,000 people go, "Oh!" And then he smashed the next one, and I lobbed it back again, and you could hear 10,000 people go, "Oh!" And it was really amazing to hear the reaction of the people.
I bet it was. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
You know, we
Yeah.
talk about, you talk about playing in Detroit. We've talked about Grand Rapids. You guys have really been a very important element of the sport in the state of Michigan as well. You brought the U.S. Open not too long ago to Grand Rapids and had a very successful event there. And it appears to me you're kind of like the Michigan ambassadors of the sport overall. And Grand Rapids has been a city that's been very favorable to the sport of table tennis. Obviously, it's produced two of the best players in American history, and also to be able to host our, one of our largest events as well is a very important element for the city.
Yeah, it was. We not only hosted it the first time in 2010, it came back to Grand Rapids in 2012 and then 2014. So it was a great opportunity to show off our city and for our city to have the top players in the nation be competing, and from all over the world, really.
It was quite something to kind of wrap up our career between playing and coaching and being part of the boards of different things, whether it's the USATT board or whether it was the foundation board, and the ping pong diplomacy and all this kind of thing, to be able to bring table tennis to our city. And it was kind of like a reunion, because some of the people from Michigan and Midwest that we hadn't seen for a while came to the tournament either to play or to even just to watch. And so it was like a reunion that we had, and it was a lot of work for us because we were the local chair of and we did have a good organizing committee. There were about 15 of us that worked on this, and the community supported us real well. But it was like a half a job, because people say, "Well, when are you going to get it back to Grand Rapids again?"
When you run it, that's when it's going to come back. That's what you tell them, because I understand that fully. Believe me, running one of those big events is a challenge on many different levels. And you talk about, quote unquote, wrapping up your career. I don't think we're quite wrapped up yet, Dell. I think that both you and Connie are still on quite a tear. And I know that you still, you've always loved the game, but I had the opportunity, like at 2019 Nationals, to watch you play there. I'm obviously good friends with David Sakai, and we'll watch some of the play there. You still had the joy, both of you, on your face, which that to me is one of the great elements of table tennis as well. That you can still play this game at virtually any age, whether you're 2 years old, where like Todd started, your son Todd started at 2, you can enjoy hitting a ball against a refrigerator at that age, but you can still, at whatever age you can live this life to, still enjoy the sport to its fullest and experience that joy.
Yeah, we're looking forward to going to Bordeaux in April next year, if this pandemic can clear up enough that we feel safe to go there. But at this point, I'm going to be 75 in October, so I can play in the over 75, and they've actually rolled those ages into next year so that we won't have any new kids in the over 75. And
Any ringers stepping in at the over 75.
I'm currently I'm number 2 in the world in over 70 rankings, according to the World Veterans Committee. So, I've got a good shot at it. And Dave and I are looking forward to playing men's doubles there. And of course, Connie and Donna did really well in Vegas,
Yeah.
and they're looking forward to playing too. So let's get this thing cured up, and let's get over to Bordeaux with the rest of the Americans that go there.
I couldn't agree with
Yeah, table tennis can start opening up all over the country here pretty soon, and all over the world, really, with the tournaments. But boy, it's going to take a little bit of time yet, I think, before internationally, you can travel.
Dell and Connie, both of you have been around American table tennis, for really some of the very important moments historically. And looking at the state of the game right now in the United States, what's your impression of it? I mean, I know that Dell, that you're, I believe you're a fan of Kanak Jha, Lily Zhang. There's some really talented young pro players right now in the States. And it seems like the game is progressing at the elite level in the right direction. But what is your feel, Dell, and then Connie? How do you feel about the state of the American game?
Well, one of the things that I was fortunate is also, in addition to being a player, I was a coach, and I coached many national champions, but one of my more famous champions was Danny Seemiller. And back in the day, in the 70s, there were really DJ Lee and myself were the people that had camps. And I had 6 weeks of camps this summer in Grand Rapids here, and DJ would have camps. But now there has got to be 40 or 50 different places where people can train with coaches that are highly qualified. And the one thing that I think would really help American table tennis is if we had a more competitive environment with all of our players. It seems like they don't all come to the same tournaments. We used to have 3 or 4 tournaments a year that were big. The U.S. Open, the Canadian Open, the Eastern Open, and stuff like that, where if you won that, you were really excited. But I don't think we have enough tournaments now where we bring these players together. And but boy, they get to train. They're traveling all over the place. The first time I ever went on an airplane ride was when I went to the World Championships in 1965. I had never been on an airplane before, and there I go over to Yugoslavia to play.
Wow. Yeah. In 65.
These kids, with the Hope thing and all these players, they're going all over the place, and that's great. So, I'm encouraged. The only thing is the rest of the world has gotten so good too.
Yeah. Connie, how about you?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the things that I think is that it still seems to be that the families still have to individually promote their child and give them, somehow they have to get money to train overseas once in a while. I think we have to get a program still that promotes these kids to travel, even maybe when they're younger, overseas, to get into that international competition younger. And a lot of them, like Connect Jaw and Lily, they've had some of those opportunities, but not enough of our young people. I mean, we have a few people that are starting to break into the world scene, but we don't have a lot of them. And I think our program needs to step up to be able to support some of these younger kids at a younger age to do that.
Dell, to your point, one of the best events, I've been in with the USATT since October of 2017, seen a number of the elite events, the Nationals and the Open. But I think the best one I've seen yet was recently in Santa Monica, California at the Olympic trials. And the reason was all of the good players were there. I mean, all the good Americans were there, number one. And number two, they had to play each other. It was in a round-robin format, so everybody had to play everybody. And I understand a bracketed tournament and how seeding and the draws can work for you, can work against you in a bracketed tournament. But when you've got a circumstance where you're playing a round robin like that, and you have to play everybody, I thought it was fantastic because it set the stage for virtually every good player in the States, other than Kanak, who didn't have to participate. Every good player had to play against every other good player. And to my mind, and I come from the hockey world, so I'm used to watching, NHL hockey, and, where the best play the best all the time. To see the best playing the best was really so satisfying. It actually made me want to I wanted to play. I mean, it was one of those things where really the energy was just amazing.
Yeah. And we used to, when we had tournaments back in the late 60s and early 70s, they also had what they called international team squad matches, where you had to play like a round robin between the top 8 players in the U.S. and then based on how you did there, it would determine whether you were going to make the team or not. And so you couldn't just sit around and just because of your one result at a tryout, you couldn't just get a team just based on that one thing. So,
well, Connie and Dell, I want to thank you very much for participating in our Pong Positive interview series. I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time. I know that both of you are very active right now. I hope to see you. Maybe we can convince you to be at Mandalay Bay for the 2019 U.S. Nationals in December.
sure.
If we can pull that one off, that's our next goal. I know Connie's next goal is to shoot, I think, in the low 60s this afternoon at her tee time. So I don't want to hold her. I want to make sure she gets plenty of time to warm up. And don't forget the putting green. Hit some balls, loosen up. But I'm telling you, if you want the number to drop, that little green space that the ball ends up on, that's the one that's going to make the difference.
It does.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, it's been very enlightening and fun to do an interview like this. And we all have to stay Pong positive.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
No,
Yep.
thanks.
Take care.